There aren't many mysteries that have captivated the world for nearly a decade, but the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370 is one of those enigmas. Since its unexplained vanishing in 2014, countless theories have emerged, each more intriguing than the last. Now, persistent researchers have uncovered a crucial new clue that might finally reveal the truth about the flight's final moments. Could this breakthrough not only help us find the aircraft, but also shed light on some of the most perplexing aspects of its disappearance? And what does this discovery mean for the families still yearning for closure? Join us as we unravel the latest developments and explore how they could bring us closer to solving the MH370 mystery. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, or MH370, took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport on March 8, 2014, heading to Beijing. The plane carried 227 passengers from 14 countries and 12 crew members, totaling 239 people. The aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, had a good safety record and came with cutting-edge tech. Experienced pilots flew it. Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, a veteran with more than 18,000 hours of flying time, led the crew. First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, though less seasoned, was seen as skilled and able. Just after midnight, the plane left the ground as scheduled and climbed to its cruise height of 35,000 feet. The flight seemed normal as the aircraft glided above the South China Sea. But at 1:19 a.m., about 38 minutes after liftoff, the pilots made their final radio call. They gave a routine goodbye to Malaysia Air Traffic Control, "Good night Malaysian 370. Soon after, someone turned off the plane's transponder, which tells air traffic control where the aircraft is, and MH370 vanished from radar screens at 1:21 a.m. MH370 disappeared from secondary radar and kept flying across the South China Sea. The aircraft then took a quick and unanticipated left turn, moving west over the Malay Peninsula and entered the Strait of Malacca. Military radar, which still followed the plane after it left civilian radar, showed it was flying with several odd altitude shifts and sharp turns. After crossing Peninsular Malaysia, the aircraft turned northwest toward the Andaman Sea before vanishing from all radar screens at 2:22 a.m. The vanishing of MH370 sparked chaos and fear among air traffic controllers. At first, searchers looked at the South China Sea, where the plane was supposed to fly to Beijing, but new info showed the aircraft had strayed far from its planned route. Other planes nearby tried to radio the missing flight but got no answer. As time passed, a huge global hunt began. Dozens of nations sent ships, airplanes, and satellites to scour the wide South China Sea and beyond, hoping to spot any sign of the lost aircraft. Right after the plane went missing, lots of ideas and stories from people who saw something popped up. People who fish, work on oil rigs, and live near the coasts of Malaysia and Thailand said they saw a plane flying low or heard big noises that night. Some talked about what looked like a big plane with engines on fire, while others said they spotted bright lights in the sky. Even though there were plenty of stories from people who claimed to see something, none of them were proven to be about MH370 for sure, and many were brushed off as not trustworthy or just chance happenings. An initial idea put forward was that the aircraft had experienced a major malfunction, like a sudden loss of cabin pressure or an outbreak of fire, pushing the crew to try an emergency touchdown. Another theory suggested the plane had been taken over, either by terrorists or a crew member gone rogue. Talks of a possible terror attack got a boost at first from the news that 2 people on the flight had used stolen passports to travel. But these individuals were soon identified as people seeking asylum with no known links to terror groups, which pretty much ruled out the hijacking idea. At that point, the search areas were huge and always changing. At first, teams looked at the South China Sea. Later, they moved to the Andaman Sea, the Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean. New info hinted that the plane had gone way off course. As time passed, people got more and more confused by the lack of wreckage or any clear clues. Teams from Australia, China, the United States, and other countries joined forces. They used high-tech sonar, underwater robots, and pictures from space but came up empty-handed. A major discovery happened when experts at Inmarsat, a UK-based satellite communications firm, found out that MH370 kept sending signals or handshakes to one of their satellites for hours after it disappeared from radar screens. These signals, called satellite pings, weren't meant to give exact location info but showed that the plane was still in the air for a long time after losing radar contact. Inmarsat's study pointed to two possible routes, one going north toward Central Asia and the other heading south into the huge Indian Ocean. A closer look at the satellite info, along with fuel usage models and known plane capabilities, pushed investigators to zero in on the southern arc, a far-off and unmapped part of the South Indian Ocean. On March 24, 2014, after a thorough study of the data, Malaysia's Prime Minister, Najib Razak, stated that flight MH370 was thought to have crashed in the southern Indian Ocean with no one surviving. This decision was based on the lack of any signals after the final satellite ping, which pointed to the plane running out of fuel and going down. The hunt for MH370 went on, but spotting the exact crash location in the huge southern Indian Ocean turned out to be a massive hurdle. The ocean's depth, strong currents, and harsh sea conditions made the search tough. In July 2015, over a year after the plane vanished, a big breakthrough happened when a piece of plane wreckage, later confirmed as a flaperon from a Boeing 777, washed up on Reunion Island east of Madagascar. This was the first solid proof that MH370 had gone down in the Indian Ocean. After the flaperon was found, searchers discovered more MH370 parts on beaches across the western Indian Ocean. Places like Mozambique, Mauritius, and Tanzania had debris washed up on their shores. This new evidence backed up theories about where the plane went down. However, the main wreckage and black boxes, which would explain what happened, were still nowhere to be seen. Private companies like Ocean Infinity boosted search efforts. They used cutting-edge underwater tech and self-driving underwater vehicles, AUVs, to comb the ocean bottom. Even with these high-tech tools, the search ran into many problems. These included false clues, tech issues, and the sheer size of the area they had to search. The search went on for years, covering tens of thousands of square miles in several phases. However, the main wreck of MH370 remains undiscovered. This left investigators and the public feeling let down and hungry for answers. The mystery surrounding the flight's vanishing and the strange events that followed led to many wild ideas. Some people thought one of the pilots, Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, had flown the plane off course on purpose. They said he might have had personal problems or was unhappy with politics. When investigators looked at Zahari's home flight simulator, they found deleted info showing fake flights to the southern Indian Ocean. This made people wonder if he planned to crash the plane in a controlled way. But later, the Malaysian government said these practice flights didn't match where MH370 went. They also couldn't find any solid proof that Zahari wanted to do anything bad. The investigations then turned to the co-pilot, Fariq Abdul Hamid. At just 27 years old, Fariq was relatively young, with 2,763 flying hours under his belt. He was a promising pilot who was still in the early stages of his career. Investigators, desperate for clues, began to scrutinize every aspect of Fariq's life, hoping to uncover anything that might explain the plane's sudden and baffling disappearance. One of the most intriguing and debated discoveries was that Fariq had attempted to make a phone call while the plane was flying at a low altitude over Malaysia's coastline. The call was brief and didn't last long. It connected with a communication tower in Penang State but quickly cut off as the aircraft moved out of range. This raised many questions. Who was Fariq trying to reach at such a critical moment? Why was he making a call when everything was spiraling out of control? And what could this mean for the investigation? Unfortunately, the authorities remained tight-lipped about the details of this call, which only fueled speculation. Some rumors suggested that Fariq might have been dealing with personal troubles that led him to take desperate actions. There was even wild speculation that he could have somehow taken control of the plane, shut down its systems, and locked himself in the cockpit, leaving the rest of the crew and passengers helpless. This narrative painted a picture of a young man in turmoil, overwhelmed by his circumstances. But was this really the case? The public, eager for answers, latched onto these theories, imagining a co-pilot who might have been pushed to the brink. However, those who knew Fariq painted a different picture, one of a young man who was excited about his future. He was deeply in love and engaged to be married to Captain Nadira Romley, a fellow pilot. Their wedding was just around the corner, a joyous event that Fariq was looking forward to. He was seen as a dedicated professional, passionate about flying and committed to his career. It's hard to reconcile this image with the idea of someone who would deliberately cause such a tragedy. Friends and family described Fari as happy and fulfilled, not someone who seemed to be battling inner demons. His love for flying and the joy he found in his personal life were strong counterpoints to the darker theories that swirled in the aftermath of the plane's disappearance. Despite the intense scrutiny, nothing definitive ever emerged to link Fari to any malicious actions. His attempts to make a phone call, while odd, were never fully explained, and they remain one of the many haunting loose ends in this unsolved mystery. Other ideas put forward a hijack situation where unknown people took control of the plane and changed its course to a faraway place, or that a military group shot it down and hid the truth. Some people came up with wilder ideas, like the plane being kept in a hidden spot or getting caught up in some big political event that may involve different countries. While these ideas were interesting, they didn't have any solid proof and often created more questions instead of answers. Experts looked into theories about mechanical problems too. They thought about things like a big electrical failure, a sudden loss of cabin pressure, or a fire on the plane that knocked out the crew and passengers. But these ideas didn't explain why the aircraft made such big changes in direction and kept flying for so long after it stopped talking to air traffic control. So, the real reason for the plane's disappearance is still a mystery. Satellite data analysis had a big impact on the search for MH370. Inmarsat got satellite pings that helped create a bunch of arcs. These arcs showed where the plane might have been each time it pinged. This info hinted that the plane kept flying for about 7 hours after they lost touch with it. Because of this, people thought the plane ended up somewhere on the southern arc of the Indian Ocean. Making sense of this data, though, came with its share of hurdles. The satellite pings showed how far the plane was from the satellite, not where it was, how high it flew, how fast it went, or which way it headed. People crunching the numbers had to use tricky math models and guess how the plane might have acted to zero in on where to search. This method, while clever, wasn't spot on and left plenty of room to get things wrong. The search for the missing aircraft happened in one of the world's most isolated and harsh areas, the Indian Ocean. This wasn't just any sea, it was a huge stretch with a sea floor that was as unpredictable as the disaster itself. The seabed in this area resembles a complex labyrinth, filled with deep canyons, massive underwater peaks, and volcanic structures that pose navigation challenges. This uneven and craggy environment makes scanning and imaging tough, even with cutting-edge sonar equipment. It's not as simple as lowering devices and crossing your fingers. Every sonar sweep has to deal with these tricky shapes, where the tiniest gap might conceal a hint and the sharpest slope could mess up a measurement. The teams faced more than just the ocean's tough conditions. They also had to deal with its unforgiving depths, which in some areas went down over 6,000 meters, deeper than the highest mountains on land. Working so deep meant handling massive pressures and unpredictable currents underwater, making it a real challenge for both people and machines. They had to look at every scan and image, knowing that the ocean floor could hide the plane's parts. Despite huge efforts and cutting-edge gear, the search zones based on satellite info and tricky drift models turned up nothing solid. It felt like looking for a needle in a haystack that kept moving and changing shape. The search teams poured their hearts into it, working non-stop, pushing through letdowns and tiredness. Every day, they faced the tough job of searching a harsh place that gave no hints, just more puzzles to solve. Even though time has passed and there have been setbacks, people haven't given up looking for MH370. New tech, like better underwater mapping, AI, and more advanced ways to look at satellite data, gives new hope that we might find where the plane ended up. In the last few years, scientists have taken another look at old information and are using new ways to analyze it, which has led to new ideas about where the plane might be. A hopeful step forward has been studying how debris washes up on Indian Ocean beaches. Scientists have worked backward to figure out where the plane might have crashed. They've used ocean data to trace the path of the debris, pointing to new areas to look at. But money and political support are still big hurdles. The search has already cost hundreds of millions of dollars with no promise of finding anything. Work is underway to boost air safety worldwide after MH370. New ideas like tracking flights in real time, better black boxes, and stronger ways to talk are in the works to stop another disaster. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and other groups have set new rules. These rules make planes tell where they are more often, cutting down the chance of planes going missing from radar for no clear reason. The latest steps look good, but we still need a big breakthrough to crack the MH370 case. The tale is still unfinished in air travel history. It's a riddle that keeps testing what we know about tech, human slip-ups, and the tricky parts of flying. The vanishing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 remains one of the biggest unsolved puzzles in flying history, grabbing global attention with every new finding and leaving a deep mark on everyone who has tracked its sad tale. As we've talked about in this video, the quest to figure out what happened to the plane has seen a string of surprising finds, disappointing dead ends, and lots of ideas. From the first shock when the plane disappeared from radar to the big international hunts that followed, each part of this journey has been full of worry and hope, but the answers are still just out of reach. We've looked into the chain of weird happenings that kicked off when the plane vanished that night in March 2014. No one could reach the aircraft. It changed direction without warning and flew for hours over some of the most out-of-the-way parts of the Indian Ocean, leaving everyone scratching their heads. People first looked in the South China Sea, then switched to searching far out in the southern Indian Ocean based on satellite info showing where the plane was last spotted. This hunt went on for years and covered huge areas of the ocean bottom, showing just how hard it's been to find any bits of MH370. The finding of wreckage, like the flaperon, gave some of the first real proof that backed up what happened to the plane. These finds, while key, also showed how hard it was to put together the full story. Even with these pieces, the main wreck and the black boxes, which hold the secret to knowing the plane's last moments, are still missing. The families of the 239 passengers and crew face an overwhelming emotional burden. MH370 represents more than a puzzle to them, it's a personal and lasting heartbreak. Many have voiced their disappointment with the slow progress and changing focus of search efforts over the years. Each new clue, each fresh idea, brings a mix of optimism and pain. These families don't seek answers for headlines or intrigue, they need to understand and find peace. The strength of these families, along with the commitment of researchers and search teams, shows how people keep going even when they don't know what happened. Solving the MH370 mystery could have a big impact. Finding out what happened might improve how we keep tabs on planes, talk to them while they are flying, and deal with emergencies. We've already seen some changes because of MH370, like new rules for tracking planes worldwide. But if we fully understood what went down, it could lead to even more changes that make flying safer for millions of people every day. To the families, a breakthrough would mean their painful wait is over. They get the answers they've wanted for so long and could lay to rest the many, what ifs, that have troubled them for years. Cracking the case might also give some closure to people worldwide who have followed the story since 2014 and are hooked by the ups and downs of the search. It would close a chapter that has stayed open and raw for far too long. Solving the MH370 mystery affects more than just individuals and families. It has an impact on global flight safety rules. Finding out what happened could lead to changes that stop future disasters. The aviation world learns from past events to make flying safer and more reliable. A clear picture of what caused MH370 to vanish would feed right into this ongoing process to improve safety, saving lives down the road. We should think about how much this story has grabbed people's attention worldwide. The MH370 puzzle speaks to our basic human need to grasp the unknown. It makes us question what we thought we knew about tech and safety and how much humans can know. It's a clear sign that even now, when we're more linked and watched than ever, things can still disappear without leaving a trace. This story hasn't just affected those close to the tragedy. It's become a global tale about loss, bouncing back, and never giving up on finding the truth. Now we want to hear your take. Are we getting close to uncovering the truth about MH370? What do you think happened? Could cutting-edge tech or fresh ideas solve this mystery? We'd love for you to share your thoughts below. Talking about this keeps the hunt for answers going and shows why we need to keep looking for the truth. If this video made you think and taught you something new, please hit the like button, pass it along to others who might find it interesting, and sign up for our channel. When you subscribe, You'll get updates on our upcoming videos about not just plane mysteries like MH370 but also other past events and riddles that still grab our attention. Your backing helps us create more content like this for you, and your involvement is what makes these talks matter and have an impact on people. To wrap up, we're still looking for solid answers, but each new hint gets us closer to figuring out what happened to flight MH370. The MH370 story isn't just about a plane that vanished. It shows how humans never give up, how we keep trying to find answers, locate our loved ones, and make sense of things that seem impossible to explain. Until we uncover the whole truth, the MH370 mystery remains one of the most gripping and unsettling parts of flying history. It reminds us that there's a lot we don't know and that we always want to learn more. Thanks for watching, and keep in mind that the hunt for truth never ends.